Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today. I'm pleased to welcome you to today's COP28 Presidency Press Conference. I'm Minister Almheiri, Director of Diplomatic Engagement at COP28, and I'll also be your moderator for today. Before we begin, please make sure your phones are on silent, and we also kindly request that you hold your questions until the end of the session and limit them to one. For your headset, Arabic and English are available on channels 6 and 7. Without further ado, let me introduce our panel of speakers. Ambassador Majid Swedi, COP28 Director General and Special Representative, Her Excellency Minister Almheiri, UAE Minister of Climate Change and Environment, Her Excellency Minister Silva, who will be joining us on stage in just a moment, Minister of Environment and Climate Change of Brazil, Mr. Gonzalo Munoz, COP25 high-level champion. Also joining us today on stage is Alex Sayer from the UNFCCC, who will participate in the Q&A. Now, Excellency Mariam, you have the floor.
Thank you. Wonderful. Good morning, everybody. I'm Mariam Almheiri, the UAE Minister of Climate Change and Environment. I'm also the COP28 Food Systems Lead, supporting the COP28 Presidency. For us, this is a historic COP, especially for food and agriculture. Just to highlight to you some of the milestone moments that we've reached at COP28. On day 2, we announced how many countries endorsed the UAE Declaration for Food Systems, Agriculture and Climate Action. On day 2, we were at 134 endorsements. Today, I'm proud to say we're at 152. And 152 endorsements means what exactly? We're covering 5.9 billion people. We're covering 518 million farmers. 73% of all the food we eat, and 76 or 78% of the greenhouse gas emissions that are coming from the food and ag sector. Getting this declaration on board and getting now 152 endorsements means this is the political will from the countries to ensure that food systems and ag is part of their NDCs, part of the national biodiversity strategies, and part of the national adaptation plans. Now, we didn't stop there. You've seen all the money or all the funding that has been unlocked. I think day 5, $83 billion so far mobilized. $3.1 billion of that going into food and ag systems. And of course, we need to keep pushing the bar. So unlocking finance, getting the political will. And again, we don't stop there. We're looking at the tools that we need to implement. We've been on a great listening tour. We've activated something called the Ambition Loop. That means we've been listening to many, many stakeholders, be it indigenous peoples, farmers, local communities, governments, local governments, and listening and connecting the dots. This has never been done before, and I think this is one of the success recipes of getting so many endorsements today. Yesterday, Aim for Climate reached new goals last year at COP27. I'm not sure if you're aware, Aim for Climate is called the Agriculture Innovation Mission for Climate. This is an initiative we spearheaded with the United States. It was launched at COP26, and now we're 2 years ahead. Last year, we were at $8 billion of committed investments into climate-resilient agriculture. Today, we're at over $17 billion of investment commitments. We also had last year 275 partners. We're now over 600 partners. Last year, we had 27 innovation sprints, and this is basically where partners come together and say, we want to work on a certain topic. They get investments for that, and they move forward. So last year was 27. We're now at 78 innovation sprints. So this is Aim for Climate, moving ahead. Also, as you know, on day 2, I announced the partnership with UAE and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Again, this is a $200 million fund that we've put forward to really put money into the food and ag research and development, but also identifying innovations to scale up these innovations to where they are needed, and also providing technical assistance for low and medium income countries. Also, I don't know if you've noticed, the food here at COP28, very different to the other COPs. We really made it a point to ensure that the food being served here at COP28 is climate conscious food. We did a workshop with the catering companies, the chefs, the suppliers, and we basically raised their awareness on what their decisions means for food systems. And for them, it was a great learning experience, but also bringing now on the table a lot of vegetarian and vegan choices. I'm sure you've seen a lot of our vegan parks. I've been getting a lot of indications and signals for those who don't eat meat that there's a lot of choice. And so I hope you're enjoying the food here at COP28. And of course, not forgetting, I am of course representing the UAE and all the domestic work we're doing here. We're really pushing the bar on closed environment ag, so these are the CEAs, how we can use these kind of farms to be able to grow a lot of the foods that we grow here in the UAE all year round. It recirculates the water. We've got great facilities such as Botanica. Many of you flew in with Emirates Airlines. The food you ate, the salads you ate, were probably from that farm. And then, of course, the likes of like Pure Harvest as well. And last but not least, I'm going to mention NEMA. This is our national initiative on reducing food loss and food waste by 50% by at least by maximum 2030. This is an action point that we're really looking at seriously to ramp up the nudging that's needed, the awareness that's needed to ensure that we don't put any edible food into the bin. And I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for all the great work you've done so far and throughout, and many congratulations. Unfortunately, Her Excellency will need to leave for another important engagement, so we'll open the floor to one question. Please make sure it's relevant to Her Excellency Maryam. Any questions? Take the gentleman in the second row.
Good morning. I'm Joydeep Gupta from the third poll. So you gave numbers of money coming into ag. Yesterday, I heard FAO and CGIAR saying 0.3% of climate finance is going to farmers. So do you have any goal, how much money? You've given the money that's coming in. So how much money do you need? How much money do you plan to raise, and by when?
So it is completely correct that the money going into the food systems and ag is way too little. The numbers that have been mentioned are currently the status, but I believe that COP28 is a turning point for food systems and ag. The political will that we've been able to catalyze throughout these few days, the mobilization of funds, the tools that we've been able to do, I think you're going to see in the next few months huge impacts with money flowing into these areas. And we will make it a point. We actually have a lot of implementation workshops for the declaration also happening these days to ensure that we are trying to force the funds and mobilize those funds to go into those projects. So we hope to be highlighting these in the next few months. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We'll now resume with remarks. Your Ambassador Majid, you have the floor.
Thank you, Excellency. Let me just say, I think I've become a vegan over the course of this COP as well, because the vegan foods are so good. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Good morning, and it's great to see you again. I know we still have a way to go for COP28 concludes, but I want to thank you for having taken time out of your busy schedules to be with us each morning and for helping to share the story of what's happening here to the world. We are concluding our action agenda with the Food, Agriculture and Water Day, and we drive momentum towards the objectives of the historic COP28 UAE Declaration on Agriculture, Food Systems and Climate Action, which was endorsed by 134 world leaders representing 480 million farmers and 75% of the global food production during the World Climate Action Summit last week. We are hopeful that we'll be able to announce further endorsements over the course of today. Food systems are extremely vulnerable to the effects of climate change, and COP28 is proud to be elevating them to the highest level of discussions. When I visited Kenya in September, I took a trip to Dadaab, one of the world's largest refugee camps, and spent time meeting some of the people living in the camp. Many had fled conflict, but many had also fled famine. Famine exacerbated not only by conflict, but by changing climate. The recurrent Horn of Africa drought and their counterpoint floods destroyed crops and stressed food security. I met mothers who often did not eat so their children could. I know that, sadly, their cases were not isolated. For over 700 million people across the world, hunger is a daily reality, and a further 3 billion can't afford to eat a nutritious diet. Quite simply, these are the symptoms of a broken food system, one that we want to begin to fix here in Dubai. During the World Climate Action Summit, we saw the global community mobilize $2.5 billion to support the climate food agenda. And the UAE and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation launched a $200 million partnership for food systems, agriculture, innovation, and climate action. Today, we go even further. As I've said before, we're doing things differently in Dubai. COP28 signals a turning point, embedding sustainable agriculture and food systems as critical components in both dealing with climate change and building food systems fit for the future. And I'm delighted to be joined by panelists that have reflected important leadership on water and food. Before I hand over to them, a brief update on where we are in the negotiations. The presidency is focused on achieving a balanced package in the negotiations. We've heard strong messages from developing countries, and as a result are asking parties to propose consensus solutions on the global goal on adaptation and further options on finance in the global stocktake. We are aware that there are also a lot of scrutiny on the language on renewables, fossil fuels, and energy efficiency. We know that this is a priority for many and that there are strong positions on this issue. We're asking parties to work together to find compromise language, and will continue to support this process, aided by our ministerial pairs. Last night, the presidency hosted a stock-taking plenary to outline progress made at the technical level and to hear feedback from the ministerial pairs on building areas of convergence. I'll hand over to you, Salah.
Thank you, Ambassador Majid. I will now pass the floor to Her Excellency Minister Silva. She will also need to leave shortly after her remarks, so she will take one question following her remarks. Minister, you have the floor.
Muito obrigada.
Thank you very much. Good morning to all.
Primeiro, eu acho que
First of all, it is extremely crucial that we have this relevant space and debate in relation to the food systems and how we can have an agriculture that is resilient to the times of climate change and also extreme events that are taking over the world, affecting the food systems of various populations. Nothing of that is disassociated of many themes that are being debated here in relation to the gain that we had in the first day of the COP about damages and losses. I believe that it was crucial to look at this theme and have a solution in the first day of the debate, because many of the damages and losses that we are suffering are related directly to the food systems. Agriculture will need to be more resilient, but also we know that there are damages and losses that are established right now. And only today that we were able to, regardless of the efforts of the Minister of Chile and all that were ahead of this process of negotiation, we had the issue of adaptation. I confess that I wasn't able to have a look of the text of adaptation, but it will have to work very strongly. The issues related to the food systems. So you have an idea. In my country, in Brazil, in the last 10 years, we had a loss of about $157 billion in relation to the agriculture. And most of it has to do with the production of foods. For the vulnerable countries,
a diminuição da produção
the decreasing of production related to extreme events due to torrential rains and affects overall the most vulnerable poor people. And this increases the price of food. And each day more, you have a system that is in chain that will be enveloping the other structure of the people's dynamics. And last year, we had a loss of about $17 billion in the production of food related to droughts. And for the first time, we identify scientifically in Brazil an area that is becoming a desert. We did not have desert areas in Brazil. We only had areas that had hydric scarcity. They are semi-arid areas that about 13 million people are involved. And now we have the reality of desert. And this means that the climate changes are affecting very drastically the social aspects and economical and cultural of segments of populations in the world that are not able to live according to the ways that historically they used to in their processes, in the productive process. We know that of the importance to have the increase of technology so that we can have increased production. However, we know that it's not just about the technology connected to modern science of what is right and wrong. We need to consider those that have knowledge, the traditional knowledge associated to the agriculture systems, local producers, people that historically live of the agriculture, and they are able to have a knowledge associated to the dynamics of the natural resources of the rain regimes and the production regimes of the natural regularities to favor these communities of small producers, family producers, that they are able to have finance to these communities. It's extremely crucial. And in relation to the technology theme, beside these aspects that I already mentioned, is crucial that we consider how we can do the transferring of technology. We use this term, but we know that nobody transfers technology. What we need to have is agreements of cooperation in scientific. And in this matter, these agreements in partnership and bilateral with developed countries and underdeveloped countries, as we had the opportunity to do in relation to Africa and Brazil, it's easier because these countries that have a language and a culture that is closer, they can help do the internalization of these knowledges and exchange of technology that will be internalized by the researchers and by the institutions of research. We need to think about the food security of the planet, and especially in different regions, is the challenge that is imposed here by this COP. And obviously, it is a part of this process so that we can have a transition that is fair, that the markets are open for the producers that are produced in the bioeconomy of agriculture, and systems that are resilient and based in solutions found in nature. So Brazil is adding to this effort. We are a great agricultural country, but equally we are vulnerable, and we want that all these agendas have connectivity. The agenda in relation to the adaptation to damages and losses, and also to the agenda of biodiversity. Nothing is separated. The agriculture is having a dialogue with all the themes that are imposed by the process of negotiations.
Thank you, Minister Silva. We will take one question from Minister Silva. Please state your name and media outlets. Gentleman in the second row.
Hi, my name is Fermin Kup. I'm a reporter for China Dialogue with the Climate Change Media Partnership. A question for Minister Silva. A day after COP, Brazil is launching a call to tender for oil rigs in the Amazon. Civil society has responded to this with concern, claiming that this counterbalances the efforts on Brazil on deforestation. I was wondering if you could comment on Brazil's stance regarding phase down and phase out and the energy transition. Thank you.
O Brasil está fazendo
Brazil is having a transition and the planning in relation to its productive processes. We already have a plan of transformation, ecological transformation, and within this plan, we have the different sectors: energy, mobility, industry, agriculture, all sectors. And what we are working on is that we are able to have an agriculture based in sustainability, an agriculture that is low carbon emission, but it is also sustainable from the economical, social, and cultural standpoint. We have a goal in Brazil of deforestation of zero, not just in relation to the Amazon, but all the Brazilian biomes. And this goal of deforestation, zero deforestation, works
da mudança de
according to the change of the model of development. We are a country that has a continental dimensions, and we want a diversified economy. And in related to agriculture, we need to have a diversified agriculture. We need to be looked at with care so that they don't have to advance in areas of forest and not damage the food systems and the food security. And lastly, in relation to your question, we are working very strongly in the program of bioeconomic to value our biodiversity so that we can find alternatives that are not transforming the forest in areas for agriculture. We already have a great area of agriculture. We have 300 million hectares of agriculture. Brazil doesn't have to go over its forests to preserve what we have already. We will also restore the areas that have been open and there are abandoned or low productivity. We will reforest in the perspective to be a great lower consumer of carbon.
Thank you, Minister Silva, and I'd like to express our sincere gratitude for you being here with us today. We're very much appreciated. Mr. Gonzalo Munoz, you have the floor.
Thanks so much, Sarah, and thanks. Great to be with you, Ambassador, and Marina, querida. Obrigado pela intervenção. Tudo de bom. So, as a high-level champion for COP25, I want to refer to definitely something that happened in this COP and that is historical, because COP28 did something unique and amazing by providing the conditions for uniting the food community under a common agenda that was intended and pursued for, I would say, at least 27 years. So probably it's something that even the climate community is not necessarily understanding, but what we're seeing today is amazing. Something that the global community, even for decades, have been working on. We've just have 2 UN food system summits that was pursuing to also develop this this amazing momentum for the food systems. Of course, I think that we have never seen such a strong commitment to actions to transform the food systems from governments, farmers, indigenous peoples, and other frontline food systems actors, civil society, cities, businesses, philanthropy, research institutes, and many, many more. Also related regionally, like Minister Marina just mentioned, the importance of working in the different areas. In the case of Brazil, we many times focus on the importance of the Amazon, but the Cerrado area is even more important for many aspects, not only for Brazil, but for the world. It started with the Emirates Declaration, and we have such an amazing number of 152 heads of states signing a common declaration. That is not simple at all. And I celebrate the work that the COP28 Presidency, of course, under the leadership of Her Excellency Minister Almheiri, but also under the work that the ambassador and the whole team has done. It's really something that the whole global food community is celebrating and recognizing. So big kudos for the work that has been done here. So at the same time of mobilizing 152 countries, we saw that Her Excellency Rassan Al-Mubarak, COP28 high-level champion, announced the launch of a non-state actors shared call to action on transforming food systems for people, nature, and climate. We have now more than 200 signatories of that call to action, and that is so much related to the how. Because we've seen in the past at many COPs and in other big moments in our history that we have amazing declarations and commitments and announcements coming from leaders and heads of states from around the world. And many times they fail. They kept somehow their intentions being really important, but the content being quite empty. And the reason of that was well referred by Her Excellency Almheiri, is because they don't connect the ambition loop. Let me refer a little bit to that. The ambition loop is a mechanism that is connected to the Paris Agreement, where member states declare what needs to happen, but they send the message to the whole of society and the role of stakeholders to start implemented. If there is a permanent connection, then stakeholders will raise the bar, and that will allow member states at a local level and then at a global level to keep raising the ambition. That mechanism exists, and where it doesn't exist, a declaration stays empty. In this case, what we're seeing at COP28, and well reflected on how we activated this in the last 3 COPs, is absolutely fundamental for not only make the announcement relevant, but then to implement in the territories where we need to see food systems starting to shape a global food system that is, again, helpful for food agriculture and create sustainable, healthy, and affordable diets for all. What I want to also refer to is the importance of the general strategy of the climate champions. So the strategy of the climate champions that was presented and approved by parties in Glasgow during COP26 is working. And this agenda, the food agenda, is probably one of the best examples that can explain how it's operationalizing the role of stakeholders on the support of the member states, but then helping them to increase the ambition. So I just want to again congratulate COP28, in this case, under your leadership, Ambassador, and of course, under the leadership of Dr. Sultan and Her Excellency, the Minister of the Environment, and Rassan Al-Mubarak as a high-level champion. Then we will have to land this. And the way to land it is with concrete projects, with concrete action, with better livelihoods for farmers and fishers from all around the world, and we hope to see then that being reflected at an NDC enhancement at COP30 in Brazil. That's the project from now on. If we do it right, then we will see how the legacy of COP28 will be now in every farm and in every plate around the world. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Munoz. We'll now open the floor for questions. So please mention who your question is addressed to. Gentleman in the 3rd row, please.
Question for Ambassador Majid. John Inger from Bloomberg News, first of all. A new text on the global goal on adaptation has dropped. Do you see this as enough to unlock progress in other areas, such as the global stock take, particularly on the issue of fossil fuel phase out? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. It's really important at this point in time that we start to see movement across the board on all of the texts. The adaptation piece has been something that we've been focused on as a presidency. We've been working with partners to try to make progress on that piece. We've always said from the very beginning that for the COP28 to really be impactful, that the outcomes need to be balanced. We need to have that global stocktake outcome that clearly shows us our path forward. And then as we look at the package, we need to look at mitigation, adaptation, means of implementation in a really balanced way. And so we're hopeful that the text that was released today can be helpful to the discussions. And we're encouraging parties to come together and negotiators to come together to unlock progress and to focus on adaptation and give us the outcome that we can all be proud of.
Unfortunately, Mr. Munoz will need to leave. Thank you very much, Mr. Munoz, for
so
being
much,
with
Sarah.
us today.
Thank you, Ambassador. I'm sorry to leave you alone. No, but I think that you have all the wisdom. Thank you.
Next question. If there are no other questions, that means we'll oh, please, gentlemen in the first row.
Thank you. My name is Saleh Jafar. I am the editor-in-chief of ESGmina.com. More a local question. As you know, Mr. His Excellency Abdullah bin Tok announced a very basically bullish plan for UAE to be among the world's top food producers in line with the food security and we're having today. So how are you aligning the UAE basically strategy with the global ones at COP28? Thank you.
Thank you for this question. Of course, this is something that our minister was better placed to answer. As a COP presidency, our goal is to make sure that the conversations that are happening here at COP28 through the action agenda are feeding real-world action that can be reflected in the negotiations. What you've seen is a great deal of success from our team through the action agenda, through the various declarations on the thematic areas that have made progress in the real world. And we think that that's very exciting. Now we need to see the negotiators take from those and place within the text elements that send the political signal that say these issues are important. Agriculture is, of course, an important sector. 2/3 of emissions come from energy, but let's not forget that almost 1/3 comes from agriculture. This is an area that we need to do a lot of work on. We need to address the challenges within this system. Food systems reform is something that's good for all of us, not only from a mitigation point of view, but also from an adaptation point of view. The more that we have robust food systems that help us to feed people, that help us to live our lives in a healthier and improve the quality of life, for people like those people that I talked about in my remarks at the Dadaab refugee camp, for people in conflict-affected areas, people in vulnerable areas, we all need to work together to make sure that food systems are working well, and particularly working well for those who are in vulnerable situations like the Dadaab camp that I mentioned.
Thank you, Ambassador Majid. This will be the final question. Gentleman in the first row.
Thank you. Before the COP began, there was a great deal of concern in civil society.
Sorry, can you state your name and
Alistair
media
Thompson
outlet?
from Scoop Media in New Zealand. Before the COP began, there was quite a lot of concern about UAE providing a platform for big agriculture and precision agriculture, which has not always been that great. There's a lot of concern about genetic modified organisms and contractual IP issues and such like that. How has the tension between that and traditional agriculture been addressed within the context of this food declaration that has obviously been very successful?
Well, thank you very much for saying that our declaration has been successful. I really appreciate you saying that. Look, I think that agriculture and food systems is always going to be a challenge because it impacts all of us. And it also varies from country to country by their circumstance, the environment, the situation, the types of crops, the types of farming or agricultural systems that they have. But I think that it's an area that we need to start to tackle, we need to start to work together. And that can be through developing new technologies, better farming practices. It can be through working with small-scale farmers to have better information, to make better choices about how they work with their crops or work with the soil. It can also be about livestock, it can be about supply chains. It's a huge area that requires a lot of work, a lot of capital, a lot of finance, and a lot of technology and support. It's an adaptation story, but it's also a mitigation story. What is our role as a COP presidency in this? Our role as a COP presidency is to get global leaders, to get the international community to focus on this issue, to make it a priority, to start to encourage the international system around agriculture and food systems to have a climate focus, have a climate sensitive focus. And so that was our intention through this declaration, is how do we bring these various streams together into a conversation that can provide a meaningful contribution. And we've definitely done that with this declaration, as reflected by the support from the 134 countries that we mentioned. But there's still a lot of work to be done. There's still a lot of work that needs to go forward to address this challenge. And we need to work with international partners to do so. And of course, we need, again, as I've said with other things, we need our negotiators to make sure that this is reflected in the negotiated text and that we're sending the right political signal from COP that says agriculture, food systems, and these areas are really important for us as a globe, but also, let's not forget, those vulnerable communities, those who are on the front line, who are affected by droughts, by the impacts of climate change. How are we focusing to make sure that they are able to adapt, they're able to find new crops, or they're able to apply new systems to improve their resilience and to ensure that they are not facing the challenges that we see every day in these vulnerable communities. So we're hopeful that at COP28 we can deliver on that.
Thank you, Ambassador Majid. Thank you, Alex. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. With that, we'll come to a close. Thank you all for attending. If you have any further inquiries, please contact our press office. Thank you once again, and have a wonderful day.